Hello, everybody. Hope you are having a great day and hoping that my microphone works today. Yeah, because yesterday I kind of talked for like 30 minutes and then I noticed the chat telling me that the microphone was not working. Not a good thing. So I just want to thank each and every single viewer while I am here. I much appreciate you folks. Appreciate everybody talking to me in the chat, keeping the conversations alive and going. Also, I would like to take this time to tell you of a little thing that I'm trying here. Normally, you may or may not know, I have cats which demand a lot of attention, which forces me to come in and out, get up from in front of the camera so that I can open the door to let them out, to let them in, to give them food. And for that reason, I was looking for a co host, and I am still looking for a co host. It's always easier to have a discussion. So I'm looking for people to do collaborations to do these talk shows. Hello, Before the Hobbit. How are you today? But today I am also trying, basically, the cats are stuck inside while I am broadcasting. So hopefully they will not sit in front of the camera because sometimes they do that to get my attention. And that way I can stay in front of the camera for the duration of this talk show. Oh, so I don't know if anybody has any suggestions as to a topic that you might like to cover today. Actually, somebody yesterday wanted me to talk about my food habits, or my favorite foods, and so on and so forth. I have to be honest, my food habits are really not good compared to, let's say, my cats. My cats eat very well indeed. They are very, very healthy cats. As to myself, normally I would eat during my talk show hours. So, okay, I eat, an hour earlier or an hour later. Nothing too drastic, but also I am getting into some very bad habits in the evening. I never eat at the same time, at the same hour. And basically, yeah, I eat whatever I can, and usually I will just make myself a sandwich really quickly, or hot dogs or whatnot. As to my favorite foods, tacos, Mexican, Chinese buffets, chicken and black bean sauce, very spicy shrimp, curry noodles are some of my favorites. Obviously, I like the Italian dishes, spaghetti, pizza, obviously pizza. When I don't feel like making much on the weekend, yeah. I also like sushi, raw fish. I like Jamaican jerk spices, so anything with chicken and beef and even pork chops. I like pork chops in a tomato sauce with black and green olives and potatoes. That's one of my comfort dishes. So basically, I will eat anything and everything. Lobster. Who doesn't like lobster and garlic sauce? Maybe one day I can have a little bit of all of those and start a cooking show. Who knows? Strangely enough, that person asked me about my food habits because initially, when I first started this channel, I was like, well, people were telling me you're doing all kinds of renovations in your house. You should, do the DIY thing. That's why my channel is kind of DIY. But by the time I got around to putting up this channel up, I finished pretty much all the renovations I wanted to do. So then I moved on to other things that I wanted to share. And one of the first videos that I shot myself doing was me cooking something. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't think this will interest people, so I never posted the video of me cooking. And I actually only filmed myself once. So talking about my food habits and my favorite foods, I think I pretty much covered it. What I don't like would be easier in the sense that I don't like celery. So some people put celery in their spaghetti sauces. I am really against it. When you start doing that, it's called a stew. That's just my 2 cents. Okay, before The Hobbit, you're asking me, should America, I'm guessing the United States and Canada combine? Uh, I am guessing that sooner or later that will just become the natural way of things. And it's an interesting question, and it's something that if you would have asked me that 20 years ago, I would have said no way. But uh, the way that politicians are actually going, I'll do a little parenthesis here and just mention that under the Liberal government over the past 8 years, they have canceled the cross country pipeline. And Alberta has petroleum, and to get it to everybody from coast to coast, and then you can even get them to container ships on each coast. Uh, it would have dropped the prices of petroleum and fuel by a lot, facilitating the transportation across the country. Unfortunately, our government, federal government, cancel these contracts. And Alberta kind of provides fuel to the west of the country and to the south, to the American states. And because our federal government wants a green energy, the East is kind of stuck now in this loop where the maritime provinces cannot generate their own power and therefore are pretty much hostage to whatever the rest of the country does. Now, politicians are not getting along. The Western provinces are pretty much fed up of our federal government that does not have their interest in mind. We are going after radical ideals that can never really get us anywhere. And so I foresee that in the future, if this continues, the Western provinces would like to join the Americans since they are easily like 50%, if not more, consumers of our product. Is that necessarily a good thing? No, because when you break Canada up, you are at the mercy of the Americans. And you isolate yourself, and you are stronger together than divided, obviously. So basically, these provinces will think that they are getting freedom, but they will become like third world countries where the United States just uses them to get their resources, and that's about it. And they will deplete the resources, not only petroleum and fuel, but it might move on to just exploiting whatever resources West Canada has, and West Canada has quite a few resources. The eastern provinces, fisheries, and all this thing are not really benefiting anything. Okay, you have a fishery department that may or may not interest North Americans, I mean, United States. So, yes, they might join. On the other hand, these provinces normally enjoy a good social net. Basically, all the richest provinces pay the social net for the lower income provinces. I'm not sure that the United States will want to fork out some monies to keep these provinces afloat. It may happen, it may not. They might find a way to free up their economy because the island of Prince Edward Island is a very touristic. A lot of tourists go there during the summer. That's how, 50% of their economy comes from. And with all these taxes on the fuel, people are not interested in visiting the island because travel expenses are through the roof currently. And this summer they have been suffering terribly. And as for Quebec, well, Quebec is still 50%, if not more, French. Actually, the thing is with Quebec is that you have Montreal that is pretty much Anglophone, and the rest of the province, the territories, is all French. So even though most of the population is in Montreal, and you have 50% of the provincial, almost 50, it could be 33, it could be 25%, I don't know exactly, are English. The rest of the province is French. So there is really no incentive for the United States to take Quebec, other than once again all our hydroelectricity, which we like claiming that it is the cleanest energy possible. I kind of agree. It's one of the most environment friendly ways to do things, but keep in mind that we had to make huge reservoirs of water and we had to flood a lot of land. So that created a lot of ecological disasters locally here and there for the wildlife, for the forests, for just about everything. And then to get these power lines, but yeah, that's any power line that goes everywhere. You have these transformers, and in that are certain products that are not biodegradable and really harm the environment. But that's, transformers are in any electricity, distribution, power. Everybody has them every couple of posts. Electric posts all over the place. You'll see a transformer there. That is very nocive to the environment. So you have that whether you have fuel, coal, nuclear power plants, wind plants. Unfortunately, the electric grid demands these transformers. So, yeah, that pollutes. But yes, maybe the United States could offer Quebec something in exchange to exploit its electricity grid. And we kind of do provide the Americans with a lot of it. And we do actually sell our electricity cheaper to them than to our own citizens, which is kind of weird. But we were explained that financially it makes sense. Okay, whatever. So either way, either the eastern provinces remain independent or Quebec that remains independent and everybody else joins the United States. It might happen. Should they combine? I don't know. Currently, nobody's really interested in joining the US because politically, they are not really in a good place. They are complete polar opposites. The same situation exists here in Canada, but as long as everybody is so divided, Canadians are not really interested in joining the US. Should the Americans get their act together, which doesn't seem anytime soon, because once again, Donald Trump, like him or hate him, is an ex president and he is wanting to run again for president. And the government is trying to arrest him any way possible. Apparently, he's even going to have to do some jail time for something. It just blows my mind how you can manipulate the system to throw an ex-president in jail. And yet you have Biden and his son, and we know all the crimes that his son has done, and he gets a pass. So when the law becomes political and doesn't apply fairly to everybody, you're just asking for more chaos. So no, Canadians are looking at what is happening in the States. We are not interested in joining this debacle. But if, let's say, you go back to a time when either President Reagan was in charge or Bill Clinton was in charge, and you had a very united American country, then yeah, the incentive to join the states would be appealing to a lot of people. Nothing works here. American is a fallen state. It is falling. I don't think it is a fallen state. And even yesterday, I was looking at Tucker Carlson talking to an ex-general about the current state of the American armed forces. And okay, America has been in a few wars, but nothing since the invasion of Iraq, where they had to physically go up against another army. Going up against the Taliban is going after individuals with sandals and whatnot and AK-47s and explosive devices. That's what mainly killed the most soldiers or injured the most soldiers during the past 20 years. The Americans have not gone up against another army. I'm kind of scared as to what would happen. People think, oh yeah, the Americans would run over the Russians easily. I don't think so. He pointed out a couple of flaws that would hinder the American army. So it's sad to say, but big business, big weapon dealers have had big contracts with the Americans. Americans had the best weapons 20, 30 years ago. Um, they still have a very dangerous, lethal arsenal, obviously. But having the best is not necessarily having the most durable. And that might backfire in real world circumstances. like if you have a prolonged war, then yeah, things might not go well. And like the general said, a lot of people now uh, have not fought a war in a long time. So, in practicality, uh, does your platoon sergeant, does your officer have enough experience to coordinate the men under his command? That remains to be seen. But the American Army has been doing the Army thing for a very long time. So it could be really, well, I don't want to say interesting to see because really don't want to see war. But yeah, things are not like they used to be. And, I've seen a couple of videos from Philadelphia in certain neighborhoods, all these drug addicts, these homeless people, it's a really bad situation. And that is coming our way everywhere. So there is no easy solution to that problem, but poverty needs to get addressed sooner rather than later. Every week you seem to be hearing mobs going into big store brand stores and looting and leaving with everything that they need, and it's not a good situation, and it's only going to get worse. And it used to be that the police were there to protect the civilian people, but more and more they are ordered to collect taxes and give out tickets to give more money to the elites. So basically, they are working for whoever pays their paycheck. So they are not there to protect the little guy. Otherwise, they'd have to turn around and arrest the politicians who are abusing of the system and throw them in jail. You're not going to see none of them do that. 20, 30 years ago, if a politician was caught dealing drugs and stuff, he would be thrown in jail. On the other hand, if they were caught driving drunk, they would get a pass. Even though drinking and driving is a crime, politicians would get a pass if they were caught drinking and driving. So I don't know how. So I hope that kind of answers the question as to if America and Canada should combine. In a way, we are very combined. We do have alliances, we do have trade agreements. But basically, Canada is getting taken advantage by the Americans already. So I don't see it going forward from that. And it could be because the economy is really not good. So maybe what will create another job boom is if America, United States, the US, starts exploiting Canada's resources. It would create work for Americans and would create work for Canadians. We will have to see where things go with that. Ooh, that's a serious debate. I just don't know how all of that would work. It's an interesting concept. I think that down the road, eventually, yes, somehow, some way, it we will be, if humanity lives long enough, because we are reaching a point where we either get rid of 75% of global population by one way or another, so that the 1% that controls everything, owns everything, has enough people to create their iPhones, and then we don't need everybody else. So we are either heading towards a massive population reduction program, because people think, oh yeah, we are herded like sheep, that they just want to control us. Yeah, there is no controlling poverty. People are just dying in the streets. There is no controlling that. And it's just going to happen on a bigger scale, which is not a good way to go. We've had leaders, wanting to reduce population in such a way. It took a while for people to wake up. I don't know if we're going to have to go through that again before people wake up and stop following politics that divide us and start following leaders that unite us and have a vision and know how to get us to that vision of a safer, better place for not only ourselves, but for the next generation. If you have a politician wanting to make the world a better place for their children and children's children, we are heading in the right direction. If we are just thinking of putting money in our pockets now and grabbing power for ourselves now, then don't follow that politician. It has to be for the people, by the people. And I guess that's pretty much my message for today. So it started with my dietary habits, and now it's moving into stuff that is a lot more serious. Let me know in the comments down below what you think. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like it, please explain in the commentaries what you would like to see and what you didn't like, and I will try to adapt myself to what the viewers would like. Thank you for The Hobbit for today's topic. And hopefully you found some answers and the questions you were seeking. Yes, it is a valid criticizing society, but we need to get ourselves into a better place. I don't have any magic solutions to that. We just need to start talking and start listening to one another. So until the next one, be safe out there because the world's a crazy place, and I hope to see you tomorrow in my next videos. Until then, bye bye.